Dealing with the Smurf can feel absolutely impossible. How do you beat someone who is used to playing at a rank 2 or even 3 tiers higher? It's a difficult situation, but learning some effective strategies to deal with Smurfs can make all the difference. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be the first to see more content designed to help you rank up just like this. Keep in mind, these tips did work for me, but you may need something different. That is up to your own judgment. Hello everyone, my name is Atchax, and today we are going to be talking about Smurfs in Valorant. The most common mistake I see is players thinking that they can't beat Smurfs. I can completely understand where this logic comes from. You can't stop someone from creating a Smurf account and being matched into your lobby. However, this is a misdiagnosis of the problem. The indirect problem is the actual process of smurfing, but the direct problem is the skill gap between you and the opponent. This is a very important distinction to make, because you can't stop someone from smurfing, but you can beat someone who is better than you. In fact, you probably beat people who are quote-unquote better than you all the time, but more on that in just a second. One of the most frustrating parts about dealing with Smurfs is that it feels unfair, and it is, but fairness is mostly an illusion generated by your frame. Let me explain. I'm not arguing whether the game should or should not be fair, just pointing out that it isn't. If you take any two players out of any match, it's very unlikely that they will have exactly the same overall skill level. If you zoom into just movement, the skill gap is probably even wider, and if you zoom in even further to only counter-strafing, the gap is probably bigger still. You can imagine how this trend continues, where the gap between the two players grows as the specificity of the relevant skill increases. What I'm trying to get at here is that it matters less what the overall skill is between two players and more what frame they are fighting in. For example, one of the two players may make excellent pasta, but I can't imagine a situation where that is directly part of the frame in Valorant. One of the most important things to remember is that Smurfs aren't invincible. They might like to put themselves on a pedestal, but they have strengths and weaknesses just like the rest of us. Finding where their weaknesses overlap with your strengths and making that the frame is the best way to beat anyone, Smurfs included. One of my go-to methods to defeat any opposing carry is to outnumber them dramatically. If you make the frame their skill at 1v4ing against your skill at 4v1ing, those should be pretty good odds. I'm not talking about having a 4v1 situation, but actually having 4 teammates shooting at the opponent at the same time. This requires more patience and positioning skill, but it's one of the most effective ways of decimating players you haven't been able to take down on your own. You won't always have your team around you though, especially on defense, so we should talk about how to beat a better player by yourself. An important idea that has been a huge help against better players is the golden rule of playing against someone who would win an aim duel. Avoid aim dueling them. The most common mistake I see players make when they think they are fighting a Smurf is taking aim duel after aim duel and becoming increasingly frustrated when they keep losing. You have to change the frame if what you are doing isn't going to work. There are certain alternatives to aim duels that also tend to be effective against Smurfs. They mostly come in 3 categories: throws, blindsides, and overwhelming efficiency. Throws are situations where you knock the opponent off their game. This can come in the form of a flash, a slow, a shock dart, a post plant, changing from shallow to wide peaks, or vice versa, and many other things besides. Throws prevent a player from using or focusing all of their skill and can give you the advantage that you need to win. They benefit from being fairly simple and are more of a head-on solution similar to an aim duel. Blindsides are situations where you surprise your opponent. This includes things like playing in corners, flanking, delayed repeats, aggressive omen teleports, elevated positions, aggressive pushes followed by hiding, and if you're more advanced, things like attacks in preparation. The goal is to be somewhere completely unexpected so that you can either shoot opponents in the back or throw off their crosshair placement and attention enough to land a frag. The third category is overwhelming efficiency, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The concept is to be so fast that the opponent doesn't have a chance. Buying a weapon with a very fast potential elimination time like a shotgun or an op will sometimes allow you to land an elimination on someone with a slower weapon like a phantom, especially if you pair it with one of the other methods. Solo ulting is the most important part of this category though. A lot of players use ults like it's destiny and are waiting until they find an opportunity for a huge multi-frag. If the opponents are being held up by one player, eliminating just that carry with a Raze or a Sova ult or using a Cypher ult, even though they are the last player standing, is a good usage of an ultimate in my book, especially because some of the more common weaknesses present in Smurfs. Combining throws, blindsides, and efficiency can be very effective because they build off of each other. If an opponent is worried about being flashed from garage window, sitting in a corner besides the door can catch them by surprise. If they are worried about overwhelming efficiency, they tend to become more predictable and may be in a better position for you to land a throw. If they are mentally occupied with more complex actions like flanks and throws, they may be more susceptible to a sudden and direct attack. On top of this, constantly changing your approach makes you much more difficult to predict, and therefore much more difficult to counter. Remember, it's all about the frame shift. The key to beating a Smurf is realizing that the game is inherently unfair, because this knowledge is what allows you to select a battleground that favors you despite the unbalanced situation. I love the frame shift method because it gives you lots of options and is super generalized. The options allow you to try many different things so that you can find something that works while adapting as the game progresses, and the generalized nature is nice because it's difficult to be 100% sure when someone is a Smurf, and there won't be a significant detriment for mistaking someone who's just having a good game for a Smurf. Personally, I don't even bother thinking about whether someone is a Smurf because it doesn't change my strategy very much. Whether or not they are Smurfing, they are still on the opposing team, and I approach them almost the same way as I would any other highly skilled player relative to the server. Smurfing is definitely a tough problem that was not designed with a solution in mind. So if you think you could benefit from a different approach, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. Best of luck everyone, and I will see you next time.